Welcome to the Southern State of Golf Podcast. Hi, I'm your host, John, and I'm also a proud member of the Best Ball Golf Club. You know, the Best Ball Golf Club is a place where you connect with people. It is an online community, but with the hopes and dreams, I think a part of it is connecting in person, talking about what we love, golf, and even, hey, this may be a novel idea, actually playing golf. The Best Ball Golf Club is something I think that is really cool. It's a great idea. You know, we're trying to build the community up. Like I said, I'm a proud member of it. Looking forward where we, can get together. We've gotten together online before, get together in person, and just try to bring people closer together around stories about the game and golf and life. And golf is life. And that's one of the mantras of the Best Ball Golf Club. But go to bestball.com and you can check out all the different things that you can offer with the Best Ball Golf Club. I think it's something really cool to see, and I think it's something you can really dive into and enjoy. There's a low monthly cost of $5 per month. I think it's something very worthwhile. While you're at bestball.com, you can also check out all the different podcasts that are part of the Best Ball family. You got the Whole Story podcast led by Jonathan and Robbie. You got our podcast here, the Southern State of Golf. You also got Off the Deck and Pictures on a Scorecard. And you can see all the great things that the Best Ball family of podcasts has to offer. So go to bestball.com. You can check out the Best Ball Golf Club and all the different podcasts. Well, in our episode today, I'm excited to talk about my experience. I recently had the experience in late February to go play at the Daniel Island Club. You know, the Daniel Island Club, it's a 4,000 acre, it's a planned estate. It's in Charleston area. It's not in downtown Charleston, but it's got a Charleston address. You can see Charleston in the back, the downtown in the background, certain spots. It's part of the Low Country. It is just a really cool thing. And this podcast is probably going to have two different forms. We're going to talk about just the golf, and then we're going to talk about the reason behind the trip itself. But, the Daniel Island Golf Club, the cool thing about it, first of all, it's a private club. It is I don't know. I think it's silly when people say, how private of a club is it? Or how private are other clubs? I mean, it's a private club. I would say it's a pretty private club. I don't know however you say that. I don't know a ton of people that have been there before, but I will say it's one of those golf courses where if you have an opportunity to go play it, man, go play it. It's fantastic. And what's the great thing about it, this has got two high-level golf courses on there. You've got the Braceford Creek course, which is a Tom Fazio design. It is nearly 7,200 yards from the tips. Now, they have a lot of different tee options. I mean, you got black, you got blue, white tips out at over 6,300. You got the gold tees that are 5,700. I mean, there's just a lot of different options. The Braceford Creek course, first of all, I'll say this. Both courses are amazing. I think both courses are really good. You've got the, pristine marsh area that you're just in and out of it, trees. I will say this about both courses. Anytime I saw any size body of water, we saw an alligator. Every single one. They were on there. First it was like, are they fake? No, there was nothing fake about it. And we saw a couple of absolute monsters on the golf course. But every body of water had an alligator. I can't think of a single body of water that we went past that I didn't see one either in the water, on the banks near it. Matter of fact, my ball was 50 yards away from the gator, but it was near the edge of the water. And honestly, I was nervous. I had to put my back to the water. I just went up there and slapped it. It was a horrible shot. I think it probably only went 20 yards. But, part of me is like, all right, that gator back there is 50 yards away. I don't think he can catch me. I don't think he can, but who wants to take that chance? I wouldn't want to take a chance of him trying, but I wasn't even worried about him that was 50 yards away. I was worried about his brother, sister, mama that was in the water, which I couldn't see. So that's probably a me problem, me being soft, me being scared. But honestly, I hope in this podcast, I love to tell stories, but I hope in this podcast, I never have to tell you about a personal encounter with a gator. If I did, then I must have done something wrong or been highly unlucky. So that was one thing. When you go through both courses, I mean, it is marsh area, there's sand, but there's also trees. It is absolutely beautiful. Like the Braceford Creek course, like I say, Tom Fazio design, fantastic. And then there's also the Ralston Creek course, a Reese Jones design. Reese Jones design. It's a par 72 course. Now it tips out from the black tees at 75, almost 7,500 yards. You've got blues are 6,900, the white 64, almost 65, and then it goes down to the red, which are 51. The Ralston Creek course is probably considered the nicer course by people, and I remember hearing that by the people, but I will admit, if I went there and without being told anything, to me, there was not a huge discernible difference in quality between Braceford Creek course and the Ralston Creek course. Like they are both really, really good. And so, I know sometimes when you go to a golf club that maybe have multiple courses and you don't get to play the main course, you may feel like you've been cheated out or you didn't get something, or you're like, gosh, I really wish I would have played that course. But not I will tell you here at Daniel Island, if I only had a chance to play the Braceford Creek course, I, that wouldn't have bothered me because I think it was that good along with the Ralston Creek course. They were both, fantastic courses that I loved. The one challenge with the Ralston Creek, I do think it was probably a little bit harder because there was some really tough par threes on there. I'm not a huge fan of long par threes, and that's a me problem because I'm not a particularly long hitter. I want to say it was hole 9. There was a big carry over marsh. Beautiful hole, beautiful hole. But you had to carry it. I mean, I think to the pin was like 180. I mean, you had to smack it a good little bit. If you were short, you were in the marsh. Now, thankfully, from what I remember, maybe if we have some people on, thankfully, I didn't lose a ball in that particular one. I did lose a few balls out here. This is a course that if you mess up, you're going to lose some balls. You need to bring in more than 4 or 5 if you're just an average golfer, because this is one that if you go too far, you hook it, you slice it too far, it's going to be difficult. And there's a fair amount of water on the course. So this is not an easy golf course. Of course, honestly, if you ever hear me say that a golf course is easy, and it's either probably way too easy or I just had an incredible day. First of all, you'll probably never hear that come out of my mouth. That is an easy golf course. But, we were very thankful, to have this opportunity to play. When I pulled up, one of our good friends, Drew, was a member out at the course and invited a group of us, out there. And when I pulled up, to the clubhouse, I pulled into the parking lot. There's member parking, and I kept driving. I get out of the car, and I'm like, "All right, Drew," and I called my friend Drew because I don't know what the proper etiquette. Hey, Drew, I'm gonna grab my bags. I'm gonna walk up to the club. Where can I meet you? He goes, "No, you got to drop you got to drop your bag off at the bag drop." I said, "Man, I can carry my bag. I'm a grown man. I can do it." I said, "No, no, no. That's part of the rules." And that kind of just reshaped my mind instantly. It's like, okay, that's right. I'm at a private golf club that has certain rules. This isn't just a muni down the street. There are certain rules and things that you have to follow. So I did. Got back in my car, went to the bag drop. And as soon as I got there, there was instantly at the bag drop. There are two 18-hole courses playing out of the same clubhouse area, and this was a Friday after, not quite afternoon, early mid morning, and it was packed. But it was precision. The customer service of the attendants that got my bag out of the bag drop was phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. Grabbed it, parked, met with my friend, and he took us into the place, and it was great. We went in, first of all, went through the pro shop. I was like, okay, yeah, it was a nice pro shop. I said, we'll save that for later. I looked around some of the things that they had in the pro shop. And one of my pro tips that I always try to do when I go into a golf course is I go, is there a 50% off rack? Is there a discount rack? Anything where I might be able to snag, something, something that's good. Because the one thing I will say this, golf clubs, and particularly, private clubs, they're not known for their bargains often. But I was able to find a 50% off rack I got a zero restriction pullover that was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. By the way, if you go to Zero Restriction and use the code BESTBALL20, you get 20% off of your purchase. So go to Zero Restrictions and use the BESTBALL20 code to get your 20% off. That's our little plug for Zero Restriction. But I got a great pullover that was 50% off of the club. It just happened to have my size, so I went ahead and bought that. I was so ecstatic about that. But then, afterwards, our member Drew took us into their locker room area, and it was amazing. I mean, I've never been to it's called the men's locker room lounge. I mean, the men's locker room lounge, as soon as you walk in, it's a massive locker room area that's high ceilings. There's a big old, I don't know, I probably should have paid better attention, a big moose, or I don't think it was a deer. It was something massive that was hanging overhead. It felt like a lodge, locker room lounge area. And then kind of right as we walked in, there was a full amenity barbershop right there inside this men's locker room lounge area. And I was like, this was so cool. Guy was getting trimmed up. And it wasn't just like a small thing. It was a full-size barber chair, everything. There was an attendant in there shining shoes. And it's one of those where, if you got a toothbrush, there's a toothbrush for you out there, whatever you need, wash your hands, all that great stuff with floss and mouthwash. I mean, it was a high-end locker room. The thing that I thought was really, really cool inside there was that there was inside the locker room was, like say, a lounge, was a restaurant. It was a full-service sports bar restaurant that would make most places insanely jealous. So we had lunch there, and it was a phenomenal lunch. The service was outstanding. I had a beef and cheddar sandwich with some potato chips that was so good. I mean, it was really, really good. I mean, there were so many good things. I wish I would have gotten fries, because Drew, he got some fries, and it was like whatever you want. I mean, you could tell they were able to prepare things to the liking of the different people there. It was, like I said, the food there was just really good. And we had breakfast there on Saturday. The breakfast was outstanding. Once again, the service was good, and you could tell the attendants, the workers there, they knew our member really well. The service was just so good. The people were so pleasant, and it seemed like genuine connections, and all the other people in there were hanging out, talking. And, right before, as we were having our lunch, it started getting more and more crowded as people were getting ready for the round, or people coming in from the round, having lunch. And this was inside. This was the thing that kind of blew my mind, and maybe I didn't think about this, and maybe this is more common than I realized. This was inside the locker room. This was part of the locker room. Now, the lounge part of the locker room did lead right out to the course, but it wasn't like, just anybody could come into it. It was part of it's called the men's locker room lounge, is where this restaurant. And like I said, the food was fantastic. The driving range, good balls. It was busy. I mean, it was a big driving range. Granted, like I said, you had two 18-hole courses there. Multiple different levels, practice facilities looked fantastic. It really was an amazing practice area. I could see where, if you really wanted to work on your game, this would be a great place to do it. I don't want to mention the guy's name, because I know you don't talk about it, but I saw an ACC head football coach. He was there. He had his bag. He was playing, and it was like, the Daniel Island Club, I think, is one of the who's private clubs of the area, and Daniel Island, like I say, it's not just a golf club. I mean, they've got all sorts of different things there. This is about, a lot of different things that they have there. I mean, they've also got different restaurants. There's a restaurant called Harry's. It's an upper scale that's for adults only. They've got cottages on premise, and that was one of the great things too. Our member, Drew, hooked us up, and there was a group of us there. We got to stay at the Wando Cottage. They've got, I believe it's 3 different cottages. It is right there, basically right next to the clubhouse. It is I don't know what you call a decor. I'm not a decor guy, but it was very well appointed. Great TV. There was fire pit on the outside, TVs on the outside. I mean, it was, very well appointed. The 3 cottages there are all identical. I mean, this was a perfect place, for a member like Drew, who was so gracious and very appreciative of him putting this together, where he can get a group of people together. And, part of this trip was, and I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about this, was the purpose of this trip. It wasn't a golf trip, but it had heavy golf trip parts to it. There was a group of us that worked with the University of South Carolina men's basketball team way back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there was a group all together. There was probably about eight or nine of us, maybe somewhere in that ballpark, that went down because Monmouth University was playing College of Charleston in a basketball game. And one of our former assistant basketball coach, Rick Callahan, which we all like and care for deeply. Like I said, he's an assistant at Monmouth University, and they were playing College of Charleston on Saturday. So we went down there to surprise Coach Rick Callahan. We just call him Coach Callahan. We went down there to surprise him. So we decided, a group of us, there was 5 of us that played golf, and there was 4 of us played golf the first day. And then when we played on Saturday, there was 6 of us, 6 or 7 of us that played golf. Well, we decided, let's have some fun with it. So we went down Friday morning, played golf, and then later that night we met Coach Callahan and the Monmouth basketball team at their shoot-around practice at the College of Charleston. And I will give huge props to head coach King Rice, who played at the University of North Carolina. He was real gracious in inviting the former players, staff, managers. Like I said, there was probably 10 of us there, 8, 9, 10 of us there to surprise Coach Rick Callahan, and that meant so much to him. That meant absolutely so much to him. And this is where I think golf kind of intersects with life a little bit. Yes, we played golf during the day, but those relationships we had were from life. My cart partner for the weekend was Larry Davis. And Larry Davis was an all-SEC guard at the University of South Carolina, played at the University of North Carolina as well, won a national championship on their 1993 team, and he was a part of our SEC championship team, a huge part of it. Like I said, all-SEC guard. It's funny, back in the day while we were in college in the mid to late 90s, I don't know if Larry played golf. I didn't play much golf. I certainly wish I would have played more, but we got to connect over golf, reconnect over golf. That's the thing I think I love about golf, is it brings back together people who may have been connected before. But, me and Larry got to talk a good bit in the cart and, just catch up on some good times. We're both basketball guys and working in high schools in South Carolina. So there was just so much, good stuff about that. And so to be able to connect there and then later at night go surprise Coach Rick Callahan, who's working, was phenomenal. It was really good. Just, after their practice, first of all, Coach King Rice invited the players and some of us to talk a little bit about what Coach Rick Callahan meant to us. And it was really cool to speak to a very good Division I basketball team about the importance of connection with the coach and people. And people don't go to different places, go out of their way to go see a former coach that they didn't like. So maybe one of my challenges with this particular podcast and today is I would encourage you, if you love golf and maybe you got a former coach, former coach don't even have to be in golf. Get some of the former players and people together. Go travel to see your coach. Go play golf during the day like we did. And then at night, go hang out with them. And I think that was such a cool thing that golf may have been part of the center trip. All right, let's make this a guy's little mini golf trip, but the focus is to go see, Coach Callahan. And that, like I said, that meant the world to him. And like I said, the very next day, we went and played another round of 18 the next day. And then we went and saw their basketball game. Monmouth played College of Charleston. College of Charleston's really good, by the way. And basketball beat Monmouth, but it was a really good game. And, we were able to center life and golf together. And to me, golf is life. Life is golf. I think there's a lot of different things in that. And golf was able to bring a lot of us together. And the cool thing about being at the Daniel Island Club, when we stayed at the cottage, not all of us play golf. There's still a lot of guys, they're not golfers. But we were able to, some of us played golf, some of them just hung out at the cottage. But after we got done, it was a 4:00 basketball game. we after the basketball game on Saturday, we went back to the Wando cottage, and we all just hung out. Got pizza. We hung out and just told stories. Told stories of golf. I didn't have many good stories to tell about my golf game, but we told stories about the things that we did when we were younger, and then we talked about, just what's going on in our lives now. The one thing I did find it was interesting when we were hanging out with Coach Callahan, players and managers were sitting around the table. Everybody pulled out their phones for a second, and then most of us are in our late 40s and 50s now. And it was funny. Everybody had their readers in. Like everybody had glasses on. I did not, but I do have my bifocal contacts in. But it was like, oh wow, we are getting old. And it was just really cool that we all got an opportunity to hang out. And I know it was the first time I ever saw Coach Rick Callahan shed a tear. He was moved by the thought that people were there, to come see him. And that was a big part. It was about come see him. It was because he did mean a lot to us. And so I would encourage y'all, I would imagine a lot of you listening to this podcast, you may have had a coach or even a teacher, mentor, somebody that meant a lot to you. Maybe you haven't connected with them. And that's the thing too. I haven't talked to, before that trip, I hadn't talked to Rick Callahan, and I don't call him Rick, it's Coach Callahan. I haven't talked to Coach Callahan in a number of years. And part of that, I was like, gosh, we need to talk more often. And I'm going to make it a point, to connect with him more often. But I want to encourage you, if you got a coach that meant something to you, go connect with him. Go spend some time with him. And even if you can't spend time with him, give him a call, shoot him a text. They would certainly appreciate it. I know for me and a lot of the people on the trip, it's a busy time of the year. When you're talking late February, early March for a high school athletic director, people in high school athletics, it can be a really, really busy time of the year. And, I did use one of my rare days off, which I don't do, but I'm glad that I did, to go down early to spend time with friends. I think that is really important, and do the things you love. That was fun to be able to spend time with friends, but then also play the game of golf. And I can't say that enough. Like, I would encourage y'all, please try not to too often use the excuse, I'm just so busy, I can't go play. And I get it. There are times you got to take care of business at the house. You got to take care of business with your work. You need to do that. But I think you also need to make it a priority, to take care of yourself and connect with people. I think that is really big. And that is one thing that this taught me, maybe retaught me as well, is like connect with people more. And, it also told me I want to play more golf. I wasn't particularly good, but I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. So to have a group of us there, one of the things, like I said, I loved, I loved the golf, but I also loved when we hung out at the cottage, the group of 8, 9 of us just sitting there talking. I loved when we all went to breakfast the next morning. Matter of fact, a couple of the former players, we had to help find a collared shirt, because this is one of those places you've got to wear a collared shirt. You just can't come in with a hot shirt or a t-shirt. You got to wear a polo. So that was one of those things, but it was cool to have a big breakfast table there. We're all getting something breakfast. We're all talking. Half of us were getting ready to go play golf. The other half we're going to go hang out. But this was a great, I wouldn't even call it a buddies trip, buddies get together. But the cool thing I will say about the Daniel Island Club, if you get an opportunity, if someone suggests that for you, go do it. It is a whole awesome experience at the Daniel Island Club. Like, this is, there's certain places, like I will say this, like, I think I've said even Stream Song or Cabot Citrus Farms. If you were to go there with your families and just a couple of different couples, but the ladies didn't play golf, but the guys did, I don't know if there would be enough around Stream Song or Cabot Citrus Farms. Maybe with Stream Song there would be, but maybe not enough around the area where they would have a great time while the guys were playing golf. Daniel Island Club, there's more than enough. I mean, you got the downtown Charleston, which is not far away. There's a lot of other different, really cool boutiques, little shops, areas there on Daniel Island. Like, this was a thing, like, for us, it worked perfect. The purpose of this trip wasn't solely golf. Golf was just part of it. The purpose of it was to bring people together, hang out, go support one of our former coaches that we all still love and care for. And it was also about supporting each other. It was great to see, Ryan Stack, who played with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was part of our 1997 SEC championship team. Bud Gallman, 6'10" Bud, who was my former roommate in college. It was great to see him. William Gallman, great to see him as well. Some of our former managers, like our friend, my buddy Drew, and then we also had Jeff, who's been on the podcast before. I mean, there was just so many cool, and Ron. You see, there's just so many people, connects people. And that was just a cool thing. And Daniel Island, if you're ever given an opportunity by a member to come down there and stay at one of their cottages, take advantage of it. It is very nice, well done, great customer service. It is a great time of luxury. And that's the thing. It is a member-driven club, but they certainly take care of people there. I can't say it enough. Daniel Island Club is a great experience. It's been one of my, this is where I do wonder if I went there by myself. I know I wouldn't have had the same experience. I still would have liked it. Don't get me wrong. I still would have liked the Daniel Island Club. The golf would have been cool. Seeing the locker room was great. Hanging out in the cottage would have been good. But what made the trip is people. And I think that's what we talk a lot about here with the Best Ball family of podcasts and different things. The Whole Story podcast, Robbie, Jonathan, golf is people. And the connections that you make over the game, I think, are phenomenal. So I can't say enough nice things about Daniel Island, club. And like I said, it's not all about golf there. I think there's a lot of great things that you can do. But I will tell you this, if you ever get an opportunity to go play. Even if you don't get a chance to play at the cottage or stay at the cottage, just go play. But it is a really good experience. Please make sure you go check out the locker room. And I wanted to go get my hair cut. I didn't need my haircut, but I just wanted to go get my hair cut to say that I got my hair cut inside a locker room at a golf club. It just seemed really, really cool. So, well, I hope you enjoyed our episode today of the Daniel Island Club. I'm excited about the great upcoming guest that we have on the Southern State of Golf podcast. And I hope you'll tune in to the next episode. Have a great day.